would be criminal if we did not start today's show off by talking about Bo Nix and his impressive preseason debut in Indianapolis. So we're going to talk about whether or not it's an overreaction to say Bo Nix is the guaranteed week 1 starter in Seattle. And then we'll talk about Haason Reddick and whether or not the Broncos should pursue the star pass rusher who has requested a trade. But let's talk about Nix and his very impressive preseason debut against the Colts, where he went 15 for 21, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, and 17 yards on the ground. That's the stat line from Bo Nix. But let's take it one step further and not just read the box score and make our conclusion up off of that. Here are some things that I noticed in a positive way about Bo Nix's game against the Colts. One, he settled in quite nicely after a shaky start. That first pass was a little bit of a hospital pass across the first down marker, but Bo Nix got comfortable, kind of let the jitters go away, caught his breath, and hey, it's his NFL debut. No one should hold anyone's first game in the preseason against a player for the rest of their career or make their entire decision or opinion on them for what they do in their first preseason game. So, settled in quite nicely, which was good to see. No issue or concerns about him having some jitters early on. He also flashed a lot of mobility in this game. We saw a side of Bo Nix that I don't think the NFL was ready to see or expecting to see, which is Nix has wheels. Like, you can use him in the RPO game. He can scamper for the first down. He is not someone with cinder block for feet. Like, Bo Nix can flash the wheels, and he can get the first down by himself. And that was a good trait of his to show off, which we saw a little bit during training camp, but it's not the same in camp compared to a real game. Next thing, a variety of throws. He was, of course, taking a little bit of what the defense gave him. He wasn't trying to bite off more than he could chew. But we also saw him air the ball out a little bit, right? He went deep to Devon Vele. It drew a pass interference flag. We saw him go deep on a moonshot ball to Josh Reynolds in the end zone, which probably should have been caught, but it's preseason. This is a good time to have that drop instead of in Seattle against the Seahawks. So it was nice to see Nix kind of incorporate a handful of different throws into his repertoire. He also looked just comfortable to me. Did Bo Nix look like a rookie to anyone else? Like, I didn't think so. Bo Nix looked like a little bit of a veteran making his second or third year into the preseason. Like, Bo Nix did not come across as someone who was flustered or didn't know what the read was, the play call. It seemed like he was just hanging out in the huddle like any other quarterback in the NFL. So that was reassuring to see, especially for those that want to see Bo Nix start as early as week 1. And then finally, that looked like Sean Payton's kind of quarterback, right? That looked like a quarterback that Sean Payton can gel with. Whereas Russell Wilson and Sean Payton, not to bring up our ex here, Wilson was trying to get off schedule a little bit, right? Trying to get off script and create something out of nothing. And that was maddening to Sean Payton because he wanted Russell Wilson to follow the playbook, to do what would the play call ask for, right? And not try and deviate and pull a rabbit out of the hat. Bo Nix, he executed. He took the play call and he delivered every single time. Now, to me, all 3 quarterbacks look good as we try to answer the question, will Bo Nix be the week 1 starter following this really impressive preseason game? I'm not quite there just yet because I don't think the Broncos are there quite yet. This isn't me interjecting my own opinion on whether or not I think Bo Nix is ready. I'm trying to do my best to figure out what would Sean Payton and this front office and coaching staff think after this game. And I don't think we're going to get a decision until next week, right? I think once the Broncos get 2 games under their 2 preseason games under their belt, they'll have a lot more of a sample size to make a better decision. But the entire mantra coming out from Denver so far has been, we are going to pick the quarterback that gives us the best chance of winning week 1 in Seattle. And I don't think Jarrett Stidham did anything on Sunday to show that he isn't better than Bo Nix, right? Sure, he's probably not the long-term solution. Bo Nix is definitely in the running for that way more than Stidham is. And yeah, Stidham isn't the sexy pick, but if Sean Payton feels like Stidham can run his offense better than Nix, then I don't think it's going to be a shocker if Stidham starts week 1 and maybe we see a change get made in week 2, week 3, or week 4. There are lots of notable first-round quarterbacks that did not start week 1. Like Baker Mayfield, first overall pick, didn't do it. Justin Herbert, Tua, like Plenty of guys did not start week 1, and there's nothing to panic over that. But I'll turn it over to you guys. Pin comment on today's video. Should Bo Nix start week 1? If I see one more preseason game like Sunday, then yes. I want to see a pattern in the preseason. Like, I don't want to overreact to the point of, wow, we're going to look super silly because we made a huge deal out of Bo Nix lighting up the Colts' second and third stringers. But I also think it's important to separate what the rest of the NFL media and fan base is saying versus what Broncos country is saying, right? Broncos country is having a joy right now, having a ball with Bo Nix balling out, as they should. They've been searching for a quarterback for nearly 10 years. And for the rest of the country laughing at Denver going, you guys are overreacting to one preseason game, my message to them and to you is, let them overreact. This has been a fan base that's been searching for a quarterback since Peyton Manning retired. So yeah, if they want to have some fun in the preseason, let them. Like, this is not the battle to go up against when it comes to preseason debuts. This is a prime example of, here's a franchise searching for their next quarterback. He looks good in the preseason. Let them drink the Kool-Aid. Let them get drunk on it for a little bit. It doesn't hurt anyone. Now, if Bo Nix puts up some stinkers in the regular season, okay, so be it. But no, I'm not going to have a rain cloud over Bo Nix's debut because it happened to be in the preseason against Colts backups. This fan base has been searching for their next thing. And for the first time, they have a taste of it. Let them have some bites of it. All right, next up on the show. Should the Broncos trade for Haason Reddick? We're going to explore the possibility of Sean Payton pulling off another trade with the Jets. This time, maybe a little bit more of a splashy trade compared to John Franklin Myers. But first, I want to tell everyone about our friends over at Game Time. If you want to go see Bo Nix in person for a preseason or regular season game, you're going to want to pay a visit to Game Time because they have awesome deals for Broncos country, including $20 off your first purchase when you download the Game Time app and use code CHATSPORTS. I like to look at that $20 off as Game Time just picking up the tab on maybe the parking or your first concession run. Because $20, sure, it's probably not going to go a super duper long way when it comes to NFL ticket prices, but would you rather have $20 in your pocket or not? So download Game Time today and redeem code CHATSPORTS for $20 off your first purchase. Now, terms apply, but I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. So download the Game Time app, redeem code CHAT Sports for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Let's switch gears altogether and talk about Haason Reddick. So the Jets, I don't even know if we can call him the Jets pass rusher. He has not even shown up to a single practice or team event since getting traded, but he has requested a trade from the Jets after being traded to the Jets back in April from the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, why is Reddick requesting a trade? Well, before he even got traded to the Jets, he made it public to the Eagles and the entire NFL world that he was seeking an adjustment in his contract as he is entering the final year of a 3-year, $45 million deal. And he has vastly outperformed that contract. He's put up 5 straight seasons with 10 or more sacks. Now, Reddick is getting up there in the age column. He's going to turn 30 years old next month, so I can see some hesitation from the Jets for not wanting to extend an aging pass rusher. But here's what I don't understand. Why did you trade for him then? You knew he wanted an adjustment in his contract, whether that was a raise or an extension, and then all of a sudden you're like surprised and blindsided that Haason Reddick wants a trade because you didn't give him an extension, which he made public before he even stepped foot in your facility? Now, the Jets have released this statement. We have informed Haason that we will not trade him, that he is expected to be here with his teammates, and that he will continue to be fined per the CBA if he does not report. Since the trade discussions back in March, we have been clear, direct, and consistent with our position. Our focus will remain on the guys we have here as we prepare for the regular season. For those of you reading that and think, oh, that's the end of the trade saga, the Jets said they're not trading him, I remember when the New York Giants said, quote, we didn't extend Odell Beckham Jr. just to trade him. Goldman, was that like almost the exact wording pretty much? Yeah. And they traded him 5 days later, 6 days later, a week later. So teams do this. I don't think you should look at that and think, oh, it's an open shut case here. They said they don't want to trade him. No, they're just trying to get their side of the story into the media. The Jets are an absolute joke. I mean, it's so hysterically funny that this franchise, which, listen, it's not like the Broncos have been a whole lot better the last 10 years, but still, at least they've got more than one Lombardi to lean on. The Jets let Bryce Huff, their star UDFA, like grassroots player, walk in free agency, sign a decent-sized contract, the biggest any UDFA has ever signed, with the Eagles, then trade for Reddick, so kind of a player-for-player swap, and now they find themselves in the middle of an absolute shit show because Reddick wants an extension, and they're pretending like they didn't know that before they traded him, or they're pretending that they knew that before they traded for him, and now they've got a pickle. So the Jets are a disaster. But let's talk about whether or not the Broncos should trade for Haason Reddick. Now, in a future episode, a little teaser here, this trade saga with Haason Reddick, it actually ties into the Denver Broncos, believe it or not. And I'll unpack that, I think, in tomorrow's episode or the following day. We'll see how the news cycle goes over the next 48 hours. But when it comes to Denver for 2024, I mean, I like the Broncos front five. I think I've been one of the more upbeat, like, overall, Broncos optimists on Denver's pass rush this year. Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, Nick Bonito, Jonah Ellis. That's a pass rush I can roll with. Like, that is not a pass rush where I am banging the table for Denver to trade or sign another pass rusher. No, I can roll with that one, especially when you toss in Zach Allen and John Franklin Myers. They may not have a guy that gets 10 sacks, but they're going to have 3 to 4 guys that get 6 to 9 sacks. And I can work with that committee. But we do have to at least explore the possibility of adding Reddick, because when a guy who has 5 straight seasons with 10 or more sacks requests a trade, pretty much 31 other teams should have a conference call about whether or not they should explore that type of trade. Reddick has been one of the more underappreciated pass rushers in our game since 2020. This might surprise you, but going back to 2020, Reddick actually ranks 4th in sacks, trailing Trey Hendrickson, ahead of Nick Bosa, and only behind a couple of Defensive Player of the Years like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett. So Reddick finds himself in between Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, and he's making $15 million. I can understand his standpoint on wanting an adjustment made to his contract. But like I was just saying, as great as Reddick has been, I'm content with Browning, Cooper, and Bonito. And if the Broncos were to land Reddick, by no means would I be upset about it. I'd definitely be curious in terms of what kind of compensation they gave up for him. But if they don't get him, not a problem. Like, this is not a trade Denver has to make, right? This is a luxury right now for the Broncos because I'm that high on Browning, Cooper, and Bonito, who last year we saw breakout seasons from Cooper and Bonito, and we saw Baron Browning miss a third of the season with the knee injury he sustained in the offseason. I mean, you go into this year with all 3 guys healthy, hopefully Cooper and Bonito just building off of their really breakout 2023 seasons, and Browning and Cooper going into contract years, so they're going to play their absolute best. Yeah, I can be happy with that. Now, if you're wondering what a Haason Reddick trade could cost, the Eagles acquired a conditional 3rd-round draft pick from the Jets. The Jets are not going to make up, like, the moment you drive the car off the lot, it starts depreciating, right? Well, for Reddick, he started to depreciate because the leverage is lost for the Jets. Once a trade request is made, teams know you have a problem on your hands, and we can alleviate that problem for you, but we're not going to do you any favors in the process. So I think you could get Reddick for a 4th-round draft pick. The Jets gave up a 3rd, so they will be losers in this for sure. I mean, they go down a round and didn't get a single snap from the player, but they may as well try and cut their losses. Now, it's not just about trading a pick away. You also have to give Reddick an extension. Otherwise, you're no brighter than the New York Jets, who traded for a player without knowing he wants an extension. I think that Reddick could land a 2-year, $34 million extension. That's a $2 million raise from what he is currently set to make this year. Probably guaranteed $20 million. So it's really a 1-year, $20 million extension, which keeps him locked up for 2024 and 2025. And I don't think that he's going to fall off a cliff just because in September he turns 30 years old. I still think he can be a 10-plus sack player this year and next year. So for any team trading for Reddick, I think they're going to get a good player and one that's not going to just completely fall off the face of the earth because he turns 30 years old. But I don't think the Broncos have to be the team that does that. I think they can bet and, roll with their younger, cheaper players and see what they have growing in their own farm system. But let me know what you think. Would you trade for Haason Reddick? Give me a T for trade or a P for pass to wrap up today's video.